And a very good Thursday morning to all of you. Welcome into the Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. Glad to have you along with you until 1, as we are each and every day, Monday through Friday, here on Big Play. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter, stream us live on Twitter at Chico Show CLE. Also on YouTube, go there, hit the Chico Bormann Show, type in the Chico Bormann Show. Hit subscribe, and you will be set to go. Coming up in less than an hour, we are going, a lot of discussion, and I feel like this is a discussion every year, but I think because of the likes of Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, the rushing champion, because you're getting big names this year, coming up and wanting long-term contracts and wanting money that teams aren't willing to give, now we're starting to hear a lot more noise about, man, something's got to be done with this running back position. And, in fairness, yes, I think it is. It is a bit unfair, but here's the thing, and we'll talk to Nick Shook from NFL.com at noon. I don't know if there's anything they can really do. I mean, the CBA still has another, 6-7 years, I think. I don't see the owners and players getting together on behalf of the running back position to work something out. So I think it's one of those, it's just, as Saquon Barkley said, it is what it is. Now, what's interesting about Saquon Barkley is he then came back and said, you know what? The only effing leverage that I have is that I don't play. And yes, now, the flip side of that is you don't get paid. You don't accrue another year for free agency, and you're just putting yourself behind the 8 ball even more. Would the Giants feel that? Absolutely, positively, yes. No doubt about it. But, I mean, this is really all that a guy like Saquon Barkley or a guy like Josh Jacobs can do, is just threaten, say, hey, I'm not gonna practice. Now, Saquon hasn't signed. I don't think he signed that franchise tender yet, the franchise tag. So if he doesn't practice, there isn't fines because he's not under contract. But I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say in some ways. I guess it's probably easy to say, well, you know what? Hey, $10 million is $10 million because, we're all saying that from our living rooms or our cubicles at work. And, hey, $10 million is a lot of money. And, yeah, it is, but it's not a fair comparison. If you're good enough to play professional football from your cubicle, where you're an accountant or a financial planner, and go play. Saquon Barkley doesn't like the idea, and I wouldn't either. I mean, if you put yourself in Saquon Barkley's shoes, Nick Chubb's shoes, or Josh Jacobs' shoes. Now, Nick Chubb got paid, but I think he's, $13 million? He could have very easily said, I want, 15, 16, but he was happy. Then he just goes in the weight room, eats weights, and squats 600 pounds. Did you see that video? Boom. I would be willing to bet, if you had all the running backs, Saquon could probably squat that because his quads are ridiculous. I remember stories about his quads back at Penn State. So he might be able to squat 600 pounds, but boom, that is a ridiculous amount of weight. I don't know how. I know Nick Chubb is strong and he's incredible and all of that, but my God, I mean, that is a lot of weight.
I wonder if Derrick Henry could put up a good amount too. I feel like he could come close as well.
Yeah, probably could. Much bigger.
Yeah.
But, yeah. It's just – so I feel for the running back position. I do. I just don't think there's a clear-cut answer. And I think people, we come up with different solutions. Last week I was talking about, they should be able to just get a 3-year deal so they can get to their second contract sooner because their longevity or their prime disappears very quickly as opposed to, a quarterback, a rush end. A lot of times it takes them a couple of years so that by the time they get, to that 4th or 5th year, now they're just starting to hit their prime. Whereas with running backs, they pretty much, if you're great, you're pretty much great right out of the gate. Saquon Barkley was, a Pro Bowler his rookie year, had a ton of yards rushing and receiving. Looking at some other guys from their rookie years, Jonathan Taylor had a great rookie year for Indianapolis. I mean, it's just by the time the way the new CBA is set up, by the time if you're a first-round pick, that 5th year comes around, you've taken a beating, and then the team is simply going to say, like they are with Saquon, we're going to franchise you. It's the cheapest alternative. It's the cheapest way to go. For $10 million, and then we'll probably end up franchising you again next year. Is it good business from a financial standpoint? Yes, it is. Is it good business as far as the running back and the team? Probably not, but I don't know what you can do. I don't think there's anything out there that is a realistic, all right, let's fix this right now solution.
And it does feel like it's becoming the new reality of the modern NFL because I heard something interesting from Aaron Schatz out of Football Outsiders, and he was talking about how obviously with this new analytics boom throughout the league, there's a reevaluation on certain positions, right? And now with all these rising salaries, these teams are reallocating the money that they are once at one point were dedicating towards running backs. They're reallocating that towards cornerbacks, receivers, defensive ends. And so now just because of the way that the salary cap is, there's no room to pay that kind of money for running backs. They just don't have the same value in today's NFL, much like he also mentioned kickers and punters, obviously, are getting paid too much. So I think it's just interesting. And it, as far as like if you are a running back and you're trying to view this from an objective perspective, I feel like there's not a lot of hope as far as things sort of turning around and anything. It's Bijan is maybe the most likely who's going to top McCaffrey at this point, I feel like. You have a lot of good running backs in the NFL, but how many?
What do you mean, top McCaffrey in
in terms of the new contract? Like we always see it at a lot of other positions. Players are getting one-upped every season, but I don't see a running back that necessarily warrants one-upping Christian McCaffrey's deal right now.
Yeah, I don't think Bijan, again, unless something changes. Now, again, to your point, he is expected to, jump right in, but that's just it. I mean, what you're saying is kind of what I'm saying. Like, Bijan Robinson, for all intents and purposes, will probably hit the ground running, literally, figuratively, and catching passes and be a huge focal point of the Falcons' offense. So that'll happen for 4 years. Most likely they'll pick up the fifth year option. The team will if he plays well, and then all of a sudden, we can so it's the same situation. And I just, I don't. He'll be in the same situation that Saquon Barkley was in. Like I said, I think there's another 6 or 7 years to this new CBA, the recent CBA they signed. So it's weird because I think some people think that something is changing, is about to change for the running backs. And the reality is this is what we're going to be doing, and we do every year. But I think this year it's a little bit louder because it is Saquon Barkley, because it is Josh Jacobs. Saquon Barkley was the second overall pick, fourth overall pick, whatever, second overall pick, I think.
Yeah, correct, second.
Yeah, second overall pick.
Baker first.
Yeah, we definitely know who was first. And then Josh Jacobs, rushing champion. So, yeah, they're going to make a little more noise, and they should make a little more noise. But, I mean, you heard Saquon say, like, the only way that I can really prove my value to this team is to not play. And he's like, anybody who knows me knows that that's just not who I am. I wouldn't leave my teammates, hang my teammates out to dry. And then it was funny listening to the interview because then he just kept going back and forth. He's like, it's not who I am, but could I play that card? Yeah. Might I have to play that card? Yeah. He sure as hell isn't going to be practicing anytime soon.
So if he does get franchised, do you think he sits out? Do you expect him to sit out? Or is that just a
He's already been franchised.
So you think he's going to sit out? Do you expect him to?
No, only because he doesn't get paid. See, the thing is he hasn't signed the tender. He was franchised, which is why I said that if he doesn't practice, he's not going to get fined because technically he's not under contract. So if he just doesn't practice, and makes sense, if I don't have a contract, I'm not going to practice it. But the Giants have put that in front of him. Hey, the 10.1 or whatever it is, here's the franchise tag. This is what it is. The tender, go ahead and sign it. And Saquon's like, no, I want a long-term deal. Now, again, that's why Monday was so important because teams had until Monday to work out a long-term deal. And there was an idea, there was a thought that Saquon and Josh Jacobs would be able to work out a long-term deal with each of their respective clubs. But it didn't happen that way. Like, Saquon wanted around 16. Giants were willing to give him 13. And he basically was like, no, I don't want to do it. And they're like, okay, well, that's our offer. And if not, here's the franchise tag. It's just, I don't know. It's so weird, again, because the game is changing. I will never say that a running game is still vitally important, but maybe the way, I wonder if they're going to look at it this way too, like for Hall of Fame purposes, right? We've talked about wide receiver numbers that, they have to really be extraordinary from guys like in recent times because the game has changed, so you're expected to catch a lot of balls. There's going to be a lot of balls thrown in the air, so all of that sort of thing. I wonder if we're going to do the same thing with running backs, though. Except, are we going to be looking as much at receiving yards as we will rushing yards? Because, again, if you're that back and you're a 3-down back, okay, well, now you certainly have more value to us. You think about what their duties are, and a great back and one that doesn't have to be taken off the field is extremely valuable. I don't care what analytics say about, there's more passing, because if you got a 3-down running back out there that is capable of running the football very well, is capable of protecting your quarterback, and that's very, very important, and able to swing out of the backfield and catch some passes that way, that's a weapon. That's a big weapon, and teams don't necessarily want to use those or lose those guys. But how many of those guys are there that are true 3-down backs in the NFL? I don't know. It's a crazy scenario, crazy situation. We'll talk to Nick Shook coming up at noon. All right, Guardians, oh boy. It started off nice, and then the bullpen, and then it was right back to where fans were on Monday. They just started to feel a little bit better after outscoring the Pirates 21-1 over the first 2 games of the 3-game series. Yesterday, they had I think it was a 4-0 lead. And then the bullpen, in particular, Sam Henches just kind of lost it there. And the Buccos roar back, and they make it a 7-5 win. So Guardians do take 2 out of 3. Probably should have had the sweep. They're off today. And then, as I said, a very, very tough series this weekend with the Philadelphia Phillies, the defending National League champions. So we will, we'll be obviously keeping track of how these guys do against the Phillies. And have they – I'm curious if many people – because I kind of said on yesterday's show, I think it's fair to say now, looking at this team in totality, looking at this team, with the injuries, at the top of the rotation, Bieber being out, McKenzie. And I know there's been good news with Bieber, but even the best news, he's going to be missing some time. But as it relates to the trade deadline, now they're talking about Aaron Savali. It just feels like the Guardians have pretty much said, and sometimes you have to say it. It's not fun to say it. It's not fun, but we're just not that team this year. Last year, you felt like, hey, with a few breaks, and they won that wild card series, and they took the Yankees to 5. Remember, they got hot at the right time. They were the team that wasn't hitting home runs, but they were taking the extra base. Their pitching was outstanding, which you get that in any series, and you feel good. Ultimately, what happened, though? Well, in the postseason, if you can't hit home runs, you're going to be in trouble, and they were. But, this year, there's really nothing that you look at this team and say, yeah, I feel good about them in the postseason if they could make it because of. I mean, there's still some good young talent on this team, and that's still going to continue, next season and hopefully the year after that. But as for right now, you're talking about top of the order guys, top of the order rotation guys that are both out in Bieber and McKenzie. You just don't know. I mean, now is Aaron Savali going to get moved? So it feels like that is probably what we're looking at and what the Guardians are looking at come August 1st. All right, if you want to get in touch with the show, 216-626-7901, 216-626-7901. Also, you can tweet at me, personal Twitter, at Big Play Chico. Also, the show, Chico Show CLE, and you can go to YouTube and check it out as well. I noticed the Nick and the interns had they were kind of hanging out in Pittsburgh yesterday. It's a nice internship, huh?
Yeah, hashtag for the content.
Yeah, hashtag for the content.
Excited to see what they cook up. What are they going to drop on us, Chico? I can only imagine.
I can only imagine what Jack asked some of those people. Excuse me, sir. Yeah. My name's Jack with Big Play in Cleveland, and I just want to know, fair or foul, Wendy's is the best fast food ever.
Last time I saw him, he was debating, should I get Cane's or Chick-fil-A? Have you had either?
Cane's I have not have. Has been a long time. Put it this way. Whenever I have thought about getting Chick-fil-A, the line is 3 miles long.
Yeah, that's true.
And I
got to wait for it.
For the life of me, I don't understand. I'll go into this because this happened just last weekend to me. Now, you're familiar with Cedar Road, Bohm. You live out kind of near
I'm an
way.
East Sider.
Yeah, you're an East Sider. So there is a Dunkin' Donuts it's like right by that plaza. It's right before Warrensville Road, like Cedar and Warrensville, but it's a little bit before that. So, we all know the coffee places are very popular. And, I get it, right? I don't drink that much coffee, certainly not as much as some people, but that's okay, whatever gets you going. The one thing I'll never understand, though, and it's similar to the whole Chick-fil-A thing, if you can't pull in, and Bohm, maybe you've heard me talk about this before, I don't know. There will sometimes, certain times of the day, 8 o'clock in the morning through the week, forget about it. You're not, either you're going to have to somehow finagle your way in there and then just go inside, but the people that astonish me are the ones that not only will wait, but they don't even take into account that people are trying to drive down Cedar and half of their ass is hanging out into the road, and it's like you're expected to just go around me. I'm waiting for my coffee. Go somewhere else. I mean, I know that I know we all have favorite places and favorite coffee places and favorite eateries, and that's fine.
The go-to,
right? But if you are so hell bent on going to one place that you're going to become an obstacle in the road. Like, somebody should get ticketed for that. If you, and I don't even understand, like, you see it coming in. I love these people. I see it every once in a while. I'll see it, like, live in person. And I'm not talking about the long line. We always see that. But every once in a while, you'll see that one person who you can see the wheels are turning in their head, right? They're looking at the line. They've got their blinker on to turn left into the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, okay? So they got their blinker on, but they can see, as anyone can see, everyone can see, plain as day, there's no room for you to get in that parking lot. Like, the guy that's last in line, his ass is hanging out of the driveway and onto Cedar Road. So where do you think you're going? And then, like, they're contemplating, and they're like, oh well. And then they just turn, and that's, I mean, you're causing a traffic hazard. And it can go somewhere else to get coffee, for God's sake.
That's chaos, Chico. Chaos.
We're trying to live in a society here.
I still think we need a segment and just call it, like, shit that sucks. And then you just rant on something like that.
People daydreaming at Costco in the middle of the store.
Yeah, and then at the end of the segment, we yell, F that shit.
Boom, are you kind of in a swearing mood today? Or
No, that just for specifically for the segment. A segment that we like to call Shit That Sucks.
Because I have said that since we've moved to the podcast forum, you seem to be, I've compared it to the kids that, say the elementary kids or junior high kids. I can't remember when I started it. Like, you'd get together, we walked to school, of course, but way back then. Get together, walk to school, and you had a pact. Like, okay, look, none of us are allowed to swear at home, but we can swear all we want amongst ourselves. Nobody will tell on anybody. I feel like that's you when you get away from home as a little kid. Like, F this shit. Like, I just swore and there's nothing that nobody can do.
My censorship varies. I was never, like, big swearing guy, although if I'm in a mood, I might let loose a little bit.
Have you ever been in a mood, Bo? Have you ever been in a mood at work? I don't know.
No, at work I do a pretty good job of tuning out the outside noise.
Because I've tried to push those buttons a few times, but you're very,
just bobbing and weaving, baby.
Yeah, you do. You're bobbing,
going with the punches.
Bobbing and weaving. All right. So that is what we got going on. Obviously, camp is just about ready to roll. We've got camp coming up. Saturday, first practice. Veterans report tomorrow. And then on Saturday, they are in Greenbrier for the first practice for the 2023 campaign. So there was more fallout. Remember yesterday at the end of the show, I was reading the report on Perry on Winfrey. And I was kind of confused because it had him on robbery. Well, apparently he took these two girls that were reaching out to him or trying to talk to him. Apparently he took their phones, and because he had a gun, was carrying a gun, they're saying, well, he robbed us at gunpoint. So I guess that is the robbery for Perry. Not that it really matters because he's gone from the team, but it's just sad. But now we can concentrate. Now we can focus on these guys heading out to Greenbrier. I think we all agree. Does anybody not feel good about the Browns going to Greenbrier? Now, if that were for the entire practice season, then no. I mean, there's still 8 to 10 that are going to be open to the public in Berea because the fans need to be a part of it. And I'll argue that no fan base in the NFL wants to be a part of training camp more than Cleveland Browns fans, and I think that's awesome. But I do think, for a variety of reasons, that it's going to be so good for these guys to just get away, because last year, was there ever really a week, if you think about it, from the time that Deshaun Watson signed to really the end of the year where there was not a distraction? And I say that, you say, well, not every week. Well, every week you could bring that up. Every week you could say something about, well, hey, what's it like, trying to just hold the seat, keep the seat warm for Deshaun and this and that. Like, there was a distraction like every single day. And they don't have to worry. Quickly could have been one yesterday. Perrion Winfrey, no, we're not even going to deal with it. You're done. So they go out to Greenbrier, and I just love the fact that, like, hey, we're going to continue, and I hope this is what they're doing. We're going to continue to focus on, and I know this sounds like it sounds like fraternity-ish, like we're going on ditch. We're going to go. We're going to go build the brotherhood. I mean, yeah, you're going to practice some and you're going to practice hard, but inevitably, you want a team that is looking forward and trying to help the guy next to him as much as they're helping themselves. And the Browns really haven't had that the last 2 years. So I'm curious, like this Greenbrier, which is going to be, just these guys. My guess is you might hear some guys talk and it's fine. It doesn't get back to the media. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Jim Schwartz had a spirited conversation, a spirited speech, talk, whatever, with the team. Just to, you're really trying to change things, and it's not as easy as it sounds. I think some people assume that, you can just kind of turn off that switch and turn on that switch as far as chemistry and guys getting along and guys playing for each other. You can't. And to be honest with you, it's something that really comes with time, which is why, every year when things are changing, it's not doing you any good. Now, they haven't had massive changes. There's still a lot of core pieces in place, but will the core pieces step to the front of the line and be the leaders they need? I think that's one of my major questions this year, because talent is not one of them. This team on paper, I think we got to see the defense. We've got to see the defense play. We got to see, how everybody, are they much better against the run? They have to be much better against the run. But I think all in all, you look at it and you say, this team really doesn't have any obvious weakness, like not even close. But we won't know until they get on the field and until they head out there, and really until that first week in September when they're taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. I love the fact. I know it's daunting, but I love the fact that the first, 3 of the first 4 games are division games. Because we're going to know very, very quickly. Doesn't mean the season's over, but it could really, if your culture, here's the way to say it. If your culture is not tidied up and it's not a better culture than you've had, then if you don't get off to a good start, it's going to show immediately, because the finger pointing and all that crap will start all over again.
And I agree with you, Chico, totally. You really want to set the tone for the season. At the same time, what we're going to see in weeks 1 through 4, that's not going to be the same team in week 12. I feel like there's a lot. I mean, obviously, a lot of new faces, some new coaching as well. A lot that doesn't just come together over the span of 4 games. So while I do think it's going to be a crucial test and a very telling test for this Browns franchise, I don't think that it will tell out the whole story for this 2023 season.
Yeah. So you're saying the whole season's got to play out and all that. So I just hope that they, and I'm not expecting them to just, go undefeated. That'd be great if they did, started out 4-0. But, if you drop, if you're 2-2 after 4 games, as long as you see something promising and they're getting better, you were beaten by a better team on that day, you can live with that.
I'll take that.
But it's the way, and we saw it, let's face it, we saw it right out of the gate with the Jets game, and losing the way they did. Like, those were the ones where you're just going. And then the bickering started pretty much from the first week of the season. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we got a little fair or foul. Yes, Boom.
Before we go to break, I just want to shout out. You can chime in the comments on YouTube or Twitter at the Chico Bormann Show. And Clee MVP, and he's got that trademark logo next to it, but he said W stream. He's given us the W, and he said he subbed. He subscribed. So shout out to Clee MVP for letting everyone know, and I just wanted to get that in before the break, Chico.
Clee MVP, you're my MVP. Thank you for subscribing. Seriously, I mean that. All of you who have joined, as far as finding us on Twitter at Chico Show CLE, on YouTube, Chico Bormann Show. Really, truly appreciate it. It's been kind of a process getting up and rolling and figuring out the podcast thing, and it's there's some, you got to do some navigating, which is also why I appreciate folks like what was it, Clee fan?
Clee MVP.
Clee MVP. Yeah, he's not just a fan, he's an MVP. But that's why, again, why I appreciate it even more, because the navigating and stuff, you got to do a little work. We're hoping to simplify that very, very soon. Like Warden McAllister, I'm sure, is on that, working very diligently right now. And if he's not, well, there's going to be hell to pay. Anyway, we will take a break. When we come back, we got Fair or Foul with you, Mr. Bombastic, and I don't bet very often. And it's nothing against, I just, I love our friends at Tipico. I did go on the Tipico app last night, and I did place a bet for the British Open. And
Daddy needs new shoes.
Yeah, Daddy needs new shoes, and we will, I'll reveal that. I don't know if it'll be coming up next or maybe in the noon hour. I'm looking at his score, and so far it's just kind of right there. So we'll see. But we may have to give it a shout out. I'm always afraid of, am I gonna basically make it come to fruition by saying it, or am I gonna jinx it? Like, are this guy's representatives, are they gonna call me by like Friday and say, hey, we appreciate it, he didn't make the cut, and we're blaming you because we hear you went on Big Play and said that was your guy that you bet on. But anyway, we'll talk about it. British Open. By the way, quick update. Christo Lamprecht. He's an amateur, one of Bohm's favorite players. He's at 500. Tommy Fleetwood. He'd be a Bohm guy. He's kind of got a little bit of the mullet.
You know what? With a name like Fleetwood, I'm like an instant fan. It just reminds me of Fleetwood Mac. So
names you may recognize. You'll hear a lot of names you have no idea.
I do know Tommy Fleetwood though.
Well, no. But I'm saying the rest of them, like Antoine Rosner, guys that don't play. Yeah, he's at.
That doesn't sound like a golf name. That sounds like a football name.
He's at 4. Yeah, it does. It does, Bohm. Jordan Spieth is at 2 under par, by the way.
Look out.
And your golf name of the day, at least for the first page of the leaderboard, Wyndham Clark.
Your boy.
Oh, Wyndham. Wyndham. What did Mommy tell you about that, Wyndham? All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back with Fair or Foul. Nick Shook coming up top of the hour at noon. What to do? Is there anything you can do when it comes to this running back situation? A lot of crying and complaining, and I get it from guys like Barkley and Jacobs, but I really don't think there's a realistic solution anywhere in sight. But we'll talk to Nick Shook coming up top of the hour. It's the Chico Bormann Show. More to come on this Thursday. It's all right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Welcome back, Fair Foul, on this Thursday. Get to that in just a second. Nick Shook, NFL.com, will join me top of the hour. What's going on with all of these running backs? And, of course, we're getting ready for camp, and Perry and Winfrey is not getting ready for camp. If it is, it's maybe another camp. So we'll talk to Nick Shook, NFL.com, coming your way in about 20 minutes from now. Boy, good pitching matchup. I kind of geek out when you get a good pitching matchup. Coming up in about an hour, Diamondbacks and Braves, Zach Gallen against Spencer Strider. They could go 1-2. Strider probably first. I think he's leading baseball in strikeouts. Gallen's very good. Diamondbacks a surprise, so that's that one starts at 12:20, and then again we have the British Open. Let's see if there has been a change. Bohm. I don't know if did you pick a winner?
I have not officially on the record picked a winner yet.
Okay. Well, it's still the amateur Lamprecht, and then Tommy Fleetwood tied with him at 5 under.
It would be so wild if an amateur won.
Playing, yeah.
I don't expect that. That doesn't usually they don't follow through in the clutch moments. But
if they can make the cut, I mean that's huge.
Impressive in itself.
But we'll keep you updated on that, and I may have to divulge. I actually made a bet with Tipico, and we'll tell you who that is coming up in the second hour. All right, right now it is time for a little fair or foul. Missed that bombastic. What do you got?
All right, Chico. Well, I saw an interesting report that the Browns were set to work out the XFL Offensive Player of the Year here in the coming days. Now, he goes by the name of Chico Pearson, and there's no official 40 time on record, but he's been reportedly, quote, clocked anywhere between 4.28 and 4.42.
What position does he play?
Wide receiver. Now, the Browns have a very crowded wide receiver room, but obviously they want a player who can have that Anthony Schwartz type of speed, but actually like come down with the ball.
The second part of that's very important. Yeah, catching.
With all of this in mind, and he's worked out for 3 other teams, hasn't been inked yet, which maybe it's an indicator that his 40 time is closer to the 4.4 side of things, but who knows? I mean, that's merely speculation. Fair or foul? If Chico Pearson were to I suppose be signed for the preseason, you would expect him to have a decent chance of making the final 53.
Foul. I mean, look, they wanted to add speed and they wanted to add explosiveness to the wide receiver room, and they have done that. I mean, clearly, Elijah Moore, they drafted Cedric Tillman, Marquise Goodwin. So, yeah, I mean, hey, you can never have too much speed, but to say that if they sign him before the preseason that he will – I mean, they're going to be looking at those guys too. I mean, those guys are going to have to be, getting in a rhythm. As far as – I mean, it can always be one of those good stories that he turns out to be, a guy that can take the top off and go, and who knows. But I don't – yeah, I'm not gonna run to the bank with that one, because the Browns, that is one area that they really, really made a strong effort to improve, and I think they have.
All right, Chico. Well, I think it's an exciting story, and it's kind of cool. Like XFL Offensive Player of the Year. You feel like there's some NFL potential in there, and certainly we've seen it in years past where like AFL, Arena Football League players or USFL players have tried out for NFL teams. So
Kurt Warner.
Yeah, the ultimate example. So just an exciting story, I suppose, and I wish the youngin the best of luck.
Did you watch any of the XFL this year?
No. Actually, I think I saw like a few seconds of it. I think it was on when I was like...
No, I take that back. I think I saw a few seconds of it.
All right.
I'm sure you retained quite a bit from that, Bone.
Yeah. Well, moving on. Let's shift to college ball now, because U of M, or the Wolverines wide receivers coach Ron Bellamy, he called their quarterback J.J. McCarthy the best quarterback in the country, And I'm not going to ask you if that's fair or foul because I don't think that that needs to be asked. But what I will say is that Todd McShay has even mocked McCarthy as high as 20th overall in the upcoming NFL draft. So what I want to ask you, Chico, is fair or foul? J.J. McCarthy is a first-round pick.
I'll go fair on that. I mean, we're talking about a 4 or 5-star recruit. Obviously he's going to have a great season, but one of the things that's gone overlooked in talking about, the rise of Michigan and their offensive coordinator, and again, I said his name earlier in the week. Moore, I think, is his last name. Getting a lot of looks as far as maybe the NFL, but he's had everything to do the last 2 years with that offense kind of taking off. So there's no reason to think that they're not going to continue to try to do that with J.J. McCarthy. The kid's talented. I mean, I think he might be – I said this going into last year, and I said it right before the Ohio State game when he started off poorly. I'm like, too many people just overhyped this kid, and then he went on to have like a career day against them, and that didn't hold up so well. But J.J. McCarthy is talented, and in this day and age of QBs and trying to find that guy, and hey, he could be a first rounder. I mean,
and as far as it pertains to like the Buckeyes facing off against McCarthy, I think he's my biggest concern going into that matchup next season.
Not Blake Corum?
No, because with McCarthy, I think there's an extra chip on his shoulder, but based on the fact that he wanted to go to Ohio State. Ryan Day stopped recruiting him in favor of Kyle McCord. And so I think there's a little bit of that revenge factor on his mind that he's always going to hold a grudge against them, and that scares me. I think it's not something that you can really measure, but it scares me. Anyways, we move forth. Chico, I want to talk a little baseball with you here.
Yes.
So this week we've been talking a lot about some of the minor league prospects that have really been flashing. Oscar Gonzalez has been putting up big numbers. He had a grand slam last night. That was something.
He did, yes.
I saw James Karinchak. Looks like he's started to get himself together a little bit. He's in his time down in Columbus, he's had 9 scoreless innings with 18 strikeouts in those innings. So impressive, I would say. Fair or foul, Karinchak will return to the Guardians by the trade deadline.
Oh, I would say that's fair. And it's not even necessarily like when I say that, I don't want people to automatically assume that Karinchak comes back and he's just like lights out. But he's had a good amount of time down there, and guess what? And you saw it yesterday. That bullpen is gassed. I mean, it is just gassed. Not necessarily Sam Hench's because he was hurt for a while and then came back. But, I mean, I know he was the one that got lit up yesterday. But as a whole, that bullpen is gassed. So I think a guy like Trevor Stephan, what you're hoping is that James Karinchak can move back into that role. And like I said, I don't expect him to be lights out, but hopefully he learned a few things down there. I don't know if he's going to be a different guy mentally because he runs hot. And for high leverage guys, that can be a bad thing. But at this point, you've tried with Trevor Stephan, who was so good in these situations last year, and it just hasn't carried over. So James Karinchak, yeah, I mean, I can see him coming up very soon, maybe even as soon as this weekend series against Philadelphia.
Yeah, and certainly feels like it would be much needed because this bullpen has been pretty inconsistent this year, and you talked about it. They're being worn and torn here in this early second half of this MLB season.
Yep.
But we commence forth. So, Chico, I want to talk to you about Seattle Mariners players.
Okay.
They were a little upset when the Blue Jays came into town, and Seattle obviously not too far from Canada, but the Seattle organization, the stadium, and their team shop, they were selling Blue Jays equipment and gear, memorabilia like jerseys and stuff.
Yeah.
The players were upset with that. some of them like spoke out about it, and they said that it didn't seem right for them to be selling the opposing team's gear while you were hosting them, which I thought was interesting. Do you find that fair or foul?
I find that ridiculously foul because you're going. I mean, okay, we got to look at this because don't look at this from viewing through fan glasses. Okay, look at this through marketing and somebody, a club trying to make money. If Toronto's in town and they travel pretty well and it's not that far or whatever it is, and either way, both teams, and Toronto is right in it as far as the playoff mix, and they do follow baseball pretty closely. If you know they're going to be there, well, you'd be derelict in your duty if you don't. If you're not putting, Kevin Gausman jerseys or Vlad Guerrero jerseys out there, you're an idiot. But why the hell would the Blue Jays players give a damn? Who cares?
Mariners players, because it was in Seattle.
Mariners players.
Yeah, it was in Seattle.
Oh, I thought you said Blue Jays players were.
Well, they were selling Blue Jays gear in Seattle.
Yeah.
Same difference.
Yeah, I think that's dumb. I think Booney would be like, you know what? I'll ask him. I'm going to have to text him after the show, but I'll bet he'll be like, you know what? How about just concentrating on what you guys need to do because things haven't been so great in Seattle. I wouldn't really be worried about what the team shop is doing.
Well, Chico, while we're on the topic of baseball, I saw something that was kind of silly that the White Sox did. So we've had some discussions about hot dogs here, not to channel my inner Jack as we discuss a little food on Fair or Foul.
Oh, I don't mind food on Fair or Foul. It's just that presentation by Jack was one of the all-time classics.
Yeah.
Chico, Fair or Foul, Wendy's is the best fast food ever.
All right. So you know how in Chicago they will loathe you if you put ketchup on your dog? Which, by the way, ideal hot dog toppings for you.
Definitely not ketchup, and I like ketchup, but not on hot dog. It's stadium mustard and onions, and I'm good to go.
I love the onions, but I can't do mustard. I gotta have my ketchup. So the White Sox, in their stadium, installed a bell of shame that is meant to be rung anytime that a hot dog with ketchup is spotted, and it literally has a circle with the ketchup. Ketchup dispenser thing and the line through it.
Right.
And it's a big black bell, and you're supposed to ring it. And
I think you should probably, right now you should, because that poor soul, if he's paying money to go there and then paying more money to buy a ticket, no matter what he's putting on it, with that team being as bad as they are, and as disappointing as they've been considering the expectations over the last few years, I'd be damn happy that anybody's there, let alone they're spending money on dogs. Now, again, come on, ketchup, no way, but that's dumb. That's stupid.
All right, well, Chico, Fair or Foul, if we attended a Sox game and got a couple of ballpark dogs, you'd ring the bell on me. You'd expose me.
Yeah, absolutely I would. By the way, let me ask you something, because I didn't know. I'm not up to date on all the latest fads and crazes and all that stuff. Did you hear that Doritos has a new flavor out, just tangy ketchup?
I feel like maybe I've seen it in a convenience store, but didn't look too closely.
They've got you saw it for a few seconds.
Yeah. I try to ignore it because otherwise I'd probably buy it.
I heard they have a tangy ketchup and a hot mustard. Hot mustard I would definitely try. Ketchup though, what?
We need to do an on-air taste test of these things. We could do product reviews.
I'm very weird when it comes to tomatoes. I don't like tomatoes singularly, but I love tomato sauce. I love anything Italian,
Ketchup just not on hot dogs.
Ketchup, just not on hot dogs. Yeah. I can tolerate it on a burger. I can go either way.
Good tomato basil soup. Tomato bisque.
I used to make a tomato bisque. I had a recipe from my sister-in-law, and Well, I'll just say that it was
Damn fine.
a big hit in Erie, Pennsylvania when I bring it into the workplace.
I'd love to try some of that tomato bisque. Maybe dip a little grilled cheese in. But I digress.
I might let you for a few seconds.
Thanks, Chico. That'd be too kind of
Sure,
you.
no problem.
All right. I meant to bring this up yesterday, but there was the Game Day MLB on Twitter. They tweeted out the longest home run ever and the top 10, which, by the way, just side note, Jim Thome is on there at 7th with a 511-foot bomb that he hit at Jacobs Field.
That was against. I think that was against the Royals, and I think Don Wangert was the pitcher. But we got to check that out.
That one left the stadium, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the one where Hamilton goes,
Moonshot.
that one will take 2 tape measures.
So, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then also, I visited Camden Yards. I attended a Orioles game one time when I was visiting on vacation in Baltimore like a while ago. And they commemorate some of the longest home runs around Camden Yards with like little plaques on the ground of where the balls landed. And I spotted a Jim Thome one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I thought that was a neat little thing.
Well, they got I believe they have the mark on the warehouse of, who put, I don't know, Brady Anderson when he hit 50 that one year, a long, long time ago.
I remember him from my Ken Griffey Jr. video game.
Had the big. Did he have the sideburns in the video game?
I don't think they had that kind of detail back in the day.
No.
No.
But yeah, that's you know what? Camden Yards is one I have not been there, and that is one park I really want to go check out.
It was a beautiful park. Yeah.
I want to check it out.
Now, coming back to my original question. Actually, another note. So first on this list is Josh Gibson with a 580. Yeah.
It's,
so you knew about that. That's crazy. At Yankee Stadium. Now, in second, we have Babe Ruth with a 575-foot jack at Navin Field.
okay.
And this is how I caught wind of this tweet, was someone retweeted it, and I thought it was interesting preponderance.
I think I saw this.
He said, I'm sorry, but there is no way Babe Ruth hit a 575 foot home run. Fair or foul? You believe that the Babe actually knocked one 575?
I mean, I don't know. Why wouldn't I? Like, we're talking about one of the greatest sluggers of all time. I mean, that's a poke. That's a long, long way. Mickey Mantle, I think, had a 565 in there. Thome's is in there as well. But if you want to say, okay, look, I've heard people say about the home run that he pointed to the kid or pointed to and they say that's BS. That story got blown way out of proportion. But to say I don't believe that he hit one 575 feet. Well, I mean, obviously people have recorded it, and it's been there for a while, so you're kind of going to have to believe it. Do you believe that dinosaurs roamed the earth at one time?
I do.
Okay. Then you should believe that Babe Ruth hit a 575-foot home run.
Yeah, I was going to say something about this, and then I completely lost my train of thought when I started thinking about dinosaurs. Damn. Well, I guess that's going to do it for today's Fair or Foul.
All righty. Well, thank you, Bohm. Good stuff as always. We will take a break. When we come back, we're going to visit with our good buddy Nick Shook, NFL.com. Man, running backs are crying the blues. I get it. I do. But I don't think there's a solution anywhere in sight. And we'll talk to Nick about that and much, much more. Certainly the Browns getting ready for first practice coming up Saturday from Greenbrier. So do all of that when we come back. It is the Chico Bormann Show. More to come right here on the Big Play Sports Network. All righty, welcome back. It is the Chico Bormann Show here on this Thursday. Are we right? Yep, Thursday afternoon right here on the Big Play Sports Network. We are anxiously awaiting Nick Shook of NFL.com. Just going to give him just a friendly, quick reminder.
He's pulling a Bohm right now. He's late.
But nobody can pull a Bohm quite like, well, Bohm can pull a Bohm. All right. You were telling me, we were going over that list, the home runs. And for the life of me, I don't understand why the guy feels like Babe Ruth's. Of all the ones to call into question, why would you question Babe Ruth hitting 575?
When Jim Thome's longest home run is 5'11", 64 more feet. And I think that Babe Ruth felt like when you look at him, he kind of defies odds because he's not, when you see him, he doesn't look like a guy that can hit a 575-foot jack.
What makes you say that?
He looks like a obese middle-aged man, Chico.
They say bigger guys are usually, but, I mean,
you have your Prince fielders. Vlad Guerrero's a pretty hefty guy.
This makes no sense to me. The guy made a career. Boom.
He doesn't look like an athlete. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he wasn't great.
Well, if you want to say, okay, I don't believe that he stole 30 bases because he doesn't look quick enough, that's one thing. But if you're going to say
he had quick hands,
I don't think that I don't think he hit one that long. Like, hello, that's what the guy did his entire career. Sultan of SWAT, the great Bambino. Like, yeah,
not 575 feet though. He's only on this list once, Chico.
Yes, but he hit home runs, a lot of them, and some he bombed. Like, why is it so hard? I
remember watching the video of
but
him.
You're with it. You're with it. You're totally on the side of the.
I didn't say I was totally on the side. I think it's just an interesting question to ponder.
No, you believe.
I had some doubt, but that doesn't mean that I totally am on board with it.
So because Babe Ruth looks like he wasn't a great athlete, means that he.
It's just surprising. I'm surprised that he's the number 2 on that list.
Who'd you expect? I mean, Tony Lazzari or Ozzie Smith?
I have no idea. Maybe Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, one of those guys that was juicing.
Okay.
Maybe even Sammy Sosa.
Sammy Souser.
Jose Canseco, perhaps. But regardless or irregardless.
Yes, Paul.
Yeah, I remember that video of the Babe and Lou Gehrig taking batting practice back to back. That has circulated. I've seen it on Twitter a few times, and man, they had some quick hands. So ultimately, that at the end of the day feels like based off of the insight provided to us from the great Brett Boone. Those quick hands are ultimately what dictate just how much of a power hitter one can truly become.
Okay, so we have gotten word that Mr. Shook is having tech issues and wants to do it by phone. Are we able to?
Yeah, just send him the number.
Yeah, I sent him the number, and then we can do it that way, right? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That one's still. I mean, do you know who Josh Gibson is?
I do, and that's why I wasn't surprised. Because when I was not really young, but when I was younger,
yeah, he was.
I saw a movie that portrayed him and some other players from the Negro Leagues, and he was always like what could have been if he had actually made it up to the majors.
Yeah. He was very, very talented.
Yeah, he was. I mean, in my mind, he's a legend. Obviously, so is the Babe. I'm not.
Yeah.
That.
No. I guess the way it was presented was what was kind of baffling to me. It was like, well, of all the names on this list, like, I'm just having a hard time thinking that Babe Ruth hit 575 feet. He hit like 714 in his career. So, yeah, I'm guessing a few of them went long. I mean, now, are some of them exaggerated? Was the measuring system as precise as it is today? I don't know.
Perhaps there were some embellishments committed.
Yeah. Thank you, Bo. All right, let's.
Great typo on this call screen, by the way.
Let's. What's this one? Nick Chuck. Is that what it says?
Yeah.
Calling, yeah, okay. It is Shook, damn it. I tell you, this operator, he's already, or he or she, is already on thin ice with some of these translations. But Nick Shook, NFL.com, is our guest. Apparently having some technical difficulties, so we have him on the phone. To the female audience, I apologize greatly. I was told this would be a sleeveless type interview, but apparently you won't have a chance to take part of that. And what's interesting is the picture that you have up, Boom, of Nick Shook is basically the look that Shook would be giving me right now while I'm saying that. Like, Chico, just shut up. All right, Shook, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great, and it's sad that I can't get my. Well, all right. So basically, here's what happened. I was in LA for the last 3 days out there for work, and took the red eye back this morning, and my computer needed restarting, and it did not come to the point where it needed restarting until right before I was about to hop on here with you guys. So, it's a bummer because I'm wearing a shirt that I think you might like. It has sleeves, unfortunately, but it's a Cleveland All-Star Weekend shirt from 1997, the NBA All-Star Weekend. An original, deep from the closet of the old Shook family residence from back in the day. And, I can't debut it on the show, but, so sometimes if we just got to go sleeveless from here on out, to please the audience, we'll do that.
Well, I mean, first of all, if there's any thought, you heard he spent 3 days in L.A., and you may think, oh, wow, Shook's, he forgets his roots. No, that's how you know, because he's wearing that 97 All-Star Weekend shirt. Like, he's Northeast Ohio through and through. When they make that, when they say that phrase, you can take Ohio out of the kid, but you can take the kid out of Ohio, but you can't take Ohio out of the kid. That's Nick Shook. That's Nick Shook. And by the way, as far as the computer, I've had that happen to me. Boom, it's happened here in studio, where it says it's got to update, and then it just takes forever, and I didn't have time. So I totally understand it, Nick. Totally understand it, and we appreciate you taking the time. All right, let's get right to it, shall we? Boy, Saquon Barkley he says, anybody who knows me knows I wouldn't sit out. But, that's the leverage I have. That's the leverage I have. There is no doubt that, some of us kind of feel his plight, and I know it's relatively speaking money-wise, but, he probably deserves more. He does deserve more. Josh Jacobs deserves more. My first question to you is, we keep talking about and hearing about all these possible solutions, a 3-year contract as opposed to, other contracts, and allowing them to get to free agency sooner. None of this is going to change anytime soon. Am I right?
I mean, it's the reality of the market. It's not even really Saquon. It's a little Saquon because he has had the injury struggles, and he did have such a great bounce back year last year. It's tough to try to look at those two things individually. You can't. You have to consider the entire situation here. And the situation is a running back who you spent a lot of a previous regime spent high draft capital on, who was very good early in his career, ran into injury issues, had a resurgent year, but there's no telling whether that was just a, lightning in a bottle, flash in the pan type of thing, an aberration, or if it's going to happen again. It's just not a wise investment, not to mention the fact that other teams aren't paying running backs who are still healthy for the large part and have produced consistently over the last 2 years. They're cutting them to save salary cap space, the example being Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. So it's just a position that teams don't invest in. Understandably, they don't invest in because the longevity of the position is the lowest of pretty much any position in the NFL. And they know that if they really needed another running back, fresh set of legs or two, they're just go draft somebody. They're just going to add somebody younger. It's really unfortunate because, you want to see guys get rewarded. You want to see guys, treated with the appreciation that they deserve that most any other position would receive. But it's just the reality of what they're dealing with here as we continue to shift toward a pass first league, and running backs are asked to do more. The length of their career continues to get shortened, and it's just not a wise investment from a business standpoint. So yeah, I would not be surprised to see a hold in since you don't get holdouts anymore. Even if he does, though, I don't think there's any resolution to this. I mean, you're past that point now, right? So Le'Veon Bell even said recently that he regrets doing what he did with the Steelers, sitting out the whole year when he was franchise tagged. I think that it's still in Saquon's best interest to play, and you just hope that he's healthy. It's always a risk playing on the tag, but you hope that he makes it out of there healthy and he has a productive season. And then maybe they go back to the negotiating table or another team says, we'll pay you. But even then, the contract's going to be 2-3 years. Nick Chubb got a 3-year deal, and yep. He's been very consistent. So it's going to be tough regardless for guys like Saquon to get paid.
Do you agree with the notion that the Giants went long-term with the wrong guy, signing Daniel Jones and not Saquon Barkley?
I don't entirely agree with that because I think going long-term with a running back is a foolish move because of what we just discussed, right? Yeah. But I also do agree that going long-term with Daniel Jones probably wasn't the move. If you had 2 franchise tags, you tag them both. Quarterback's important. I don't know if I was paying Daniel Jones $40 million a year. Now, that contract could be structured to where they could get out of it earlier, sooner rather than later. And if that's the case, then you make that deal because, in this league, the one league where these guys aren't guaranteed this money, there are plenty of ways to structure deals to get out of it and save yourself a ton of cap space and so on and so forth. But on its surface, on its face, $40 million a year for a quarterback who didn't break 4,000 passing yards last year. And I know he's got the whole running element and everything, but was a guy who was on the hot seat and couldn't stay healthy in previous years. The tale, is somewhat similar to Saquon in recent years, and that neither of them have been very available. I don't feel like great about investing. They had to. They were between a rock and a hard place, had one tag to use, and business-wise, you use it on the running back who is probably not going to last as long. And you hope that Daniel Jones takes the next step and you get the security that allows him to develop with Brian Daboll. But that's more about what they think and what they see in him. For me, I don't know. I think it might come back to bite them.
Nick Shook, NFL.com, joining us here, Chico Bormann Show on the Big Play Sports Network. I was thinking about this the other day, and it just feels like, and I'm not saying with all positions, but most positions other than running back, you will see guys that, some guys do come right out of the gate, right out of college, and they star. But it does take them a little while. It does take them 2, 3, 4 years. So when it's time for that second contract, they are hitting their prime. It almost feels like with these running backs, you pretty much know right away. And I'm thinking, and again, injuries come into it, but like Saquon Barkley's first year, Nick Chubb, when they finally decided to go to him, we saw what he could do. Jonathan Taylor early on. Like you with running backs, if you're going to make it and you're going to be a star, it's almost like you're going to be a star right away. And it just seems like it would be rare for a guy, say 3-4 years in, now I'm hitting my stride as a running back. Like you either have it right out of the gate or you don't.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's why you see teams spend picks. Because we talk about the devaluation of running backs and how you don't see them taking the first round, highly anymore. But when I watched Bijan Robinson this year going in the pre-draft process, I immediately thought of Ezekiel Elliott. He just, seeing at the combine, he just separated himself. He was a different guy. And I thought that's probably the first running back since Zeke that we're going to see go, in the top 10. And he did. So a lot of people were probably like, why did you invest such a high pick in a running back? Well, this guy's different, and this guy is somebody that they're going to expect to make a difference in both the running and passing game immediately. For a team that already knew how to run the ball, how to run the ball pretty darn well last year with guys like Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley, so which are no names to the average football fan. So you add in a premier player in that draft class like that to that offense, and it elevates you. So it makes sense to invest in those guys. But I also think if you're going to invest in a running back, you do it as a rookie. You do it when he's young and he's fresh, and you hope that you get the most out of that. You have that 5th-year option to really extend that. And then by 5 years, maybe they're at that point where you're kind of like Saquon right now, where it's like, I don't know if I want to invest in you anymore. Or maybe we tag you once or twice and move on. I was talking with a colleague the other day where, essentially we all kind of agreed that, I'd tag a running back twice. I wouldn't tag him 3 times, but I'd tag him twice and then let him go.
And they probably will with Saquon.
They just don't have the durability beyond, when you get close to 30, it's pretty much the end for them. So That's why you draft guys early. You rely on them, and you expect them to produce immediately, and you get good 5-6 years out of them, maybe 7 if you tag them twice, and that's it. And maybe that's what a great Hall of Fame career ends up being, is not somebody threatening Emmitt Smith's rushing record, but just, getting a good 5, 6, 7 years ahead of a guy.
Okay, last thing on this before we move on is, I said it right from the beginning, like, I think people assume that something's going to be done about this, and something. The CBA still has another 6 or 7 years. Owners, you'd have a hard time, I think, getting all owners together for them to sign off on a special exemption for running backs. So, people that think this is going to change because in their view it's egregious, and in some cases it is, it ain't changing anytime soon.
No, it's not. The CBA situation, over the last couple of decades, has not really seen significant changes. You've kind of seen some of the testing policies change. The revenue split has largely remained the same, and the share between players and everything else. They just scratch and claw for everything they can get when it comes to these negotiations. And I don't think the franchise tag is going anywhere, even though players don't like it, because it's all about a give and take game, and I don't know if they have enough to give to get that back, to get the removal of a franchise tag back. So I think this is going to be the reality for a while. And unless you have a player who exceeds the expectations at this position specifically, this is probably just now setting the precedent. This is the standard. And I think even negotiations with future CBA, we could be, it's early because this one's running for a while. It could be a little early to project that, but right now, from a leverage position, I just don't see it going anywhere.
All right, shifting focus to our Cleveland Browns and the quarterbacks and rookies yesterday, tomorrow the veterans, Saturday. First practice at Greenbrier, and of course there was news in addition to quarterbacks and rookies signing and getting into camp, but Perry and Winfrey had another incident downtown, I believe, at the 9 Hotel, and the Browns didn't waste any time. Personally, Nick, I was surprised he lasted as long as he did. I thought last year when all that stuff started to bubble up, even, when Miles, who never usually comments on stuff like that, when Miles made a point to, stand behind Kevin Stefanski and say, yeah, his behavior has been intolerable. I'm surprised they lasted this long with him. But your thoughts on Winfrey?
It's kind of a disappointing story, kind of narrative arc for his time in Cleveland, because, everybody immediately loved him because he was so excited. I'm a dog. I'm coming to the dog pound, all that stuff when he was drafted. And he saw the potential, but, not only did he have the off-field issues, he also was wildly inconsistent in his play. And I think that those two things are not independent. If it's, a conduct issue, it's a dedication or lack thereof issue, you're going to see those results show up in the field no matter how talented you are. You could go look at even a guy like Johnny Manziel, who just didn't take the game seriously, and he paid for it in the NFL. You cannot fake it in the NFL. And if you're not completely dedicated to your craft and focused on getting better and keeping your nose clean, you're going to run into these issues. And I think the Browns just realized, hey, look, this is not worth it. This person needs to get, their stuff together. And it's not worth it for us as an employer and as a franchise to keep him on the team, especially after, the incident, that was alleged to have happened, this week downtown. It's not a good look. And it's a sign of somebody who really needs to focus more on that than on football.
Do they, I don't know how much, I'm sure everybody was expecting some improvement under Jim Schwartz, but again, there's the off-the-field stuff that you can never be sure about. Do you expect them to be on the hunt for somebody to fill that void or in the middle? He didn't play a whole lot. I think he appeared in 13 games, but he really, like you said, he never became any kind of consistent force.
Yeah, I would expect them to find somebody, and it might not be a big. It's probably not going to be a big name. It's probably going to be, another guy that. Maybe it's somebody that they add at the end, roster cut down time. Usually when rosters you shuffle a little bit, but just for a roster total and for position totals, I would expect them to go get somebody and see what happens. It's not like you have a super high expectation because he didn't produce really at all as a rookie. So it's not like you have to go fill a massive void there. I think they've done most of that work already. It's just, it does hit your depth a little bit. So you replace him with somebody who you hope can, answer the challenge and be able to contribute in whatever role they have envisioned, or at least make the team. And if they don't find that guy, maybe they find somebody else who gets cut, at the end of training camp, at the end of preseason.
Let me ask you about the Cincinnati Bengals. Earlier in the week, we had my old colleague and buddy, James Rapine, who's now down in Cincinnati covering the Bengals. And we're talking to him about, obviously, Joe Burrow and the contract, and, he's going to get paid. Is he waiting for Justin Herbert? Who knows? But primarily, him and I focused on a new-look defense. They lose their two safeties in Von Bell and Jesse Bates. Seemingly some good guys up front, but is that if there's an Achilles heel for the Cincinnati Bengals, we know it's really not on the offensive side of the ball, maybe the O-line. What is it, and what do you think their prospects are this year?
I think this is the best team they've had in the Joe Burrow era. I think it's a defining year for them as well. They have some decisions to make in their receiving core going forward. And they lost a little bit, the guys like Hayden Hurst, for example, other players, they come and go. It's just what happens, from year to year. But ultimately, I think that they're best equipped to go win a championship this year. They're probably the best team on paper in the AFC North. And if you look at an Achilles heel, maybe it's depth in the offensive line. They did have some guys to replace on the back end of their secondary because of the movement in free agency as well. But I expect them to be a very solid team and to be right there for contending for the division. They're going to be the team to beat in the AFC North. It's just a matter of depth. It's kind of a generic answer, but it's a matter of being deep enough to weather the storm that is the season. The teams that end up succeeding oftentimes are the teams that remain the healthiest and keep most of their key players. We know that they have to pay Joe Burrow soon, and we know that some big decisions are going to be coming on that front. But overall, they look really good. They look strong. It's just a matter of executing. It's weird because at this point, there's not that much exciting to say about them. You just expect them to be competitive and to be good. And it's hard to kind of poke holes in that roster. So I think it's a depth thing. I think it's just staying healthy is the most important thing for them.
All right, just a few more minutes. One of your colleagues, Adam Rank, had a column today I found interesting, and I think in general this guy's interesting, and that's Russell Wilson. He's had a great career, no doubt about that, but okay, they bring in Sean Payton, and hey, you figure if anybody's going to get the most out of him, the best out of him, it's going to be Sean Payton, and Sean Payton runs things his way and his way only. Do you think that there's much more to get from Russell Wilson, or do you think that maybe he's just kind of hit that point where, he's not bad, but he's never gonna be the Russell Wilson of old?
I think that this year answers that for us. Last year was not encouraging. He's not, I had a good conversation with people who know some really good stuff about quarterbacks this week. And a point that was made to me that I didn't really consider before is he's not a premier level processor. He's more of a playmaker, and stepping into a new system in year one presents challenges that he just did not have to deal with when he was in Seattle because he was in, with that team for so long. I think we saw that. I think we saw him trying to do too much. He wanted more on his plate and probably couldn't handle it. He wasn't in the best shape last year. He was in a little thick. He had put on some weight to absorb the hits that he was known to take in Seattle, and I think it really bogged him down. He played heavy. He played slow. He's apparently in better shape now. But again, he's in a new system again with Sean Payton. It's not an easy offense. So if they can get all of that down before the start of the season or early on in the season, I think we could see him return to form. But as of now, we don't have any indicators necessarily that he's suddenly going to return to the stats where he was kind of an MVP candidate early in his final few seasons in Seattle. I think about 2019, he was playing at an MVP level when the Seahawks came to Cleveland. They were playing great football. So I get he's equipped with the talent around him to succeed. It's just a matter of fitting that offense getting everything processed, not trying to do too much, and being in good shape and being able to remain available on the field by staying healthy. And if he can do all of that and then just let his ability kind of take over, which includes him, having a masterful, command of the offense, which at this point I don't think he does. I don't think most would at this point in learning a new system. Then maybe he bounces back. But right now it's really fair to wonder and ask that question. It's totally a legitimate question that we're never going to see that guy again. Are we never going to see that guy again? I don't know. I hold out hope that pairing him with the right coach and giving him time to prepare and getting everything else under control, not catering to him, having his own staff within the staff in the building and stuff like that. Eliminating that type of thing could probably help. I think having a veteran coach who knows how to right the ship and steady things when you hit some turbulence, which Nathaniel Hackett did not, have that capability as a rookie head coach. Getting Sean Payton was the right move. Getting a guy who's experienced is the right move. It's just a matter of whether it all fits. And if it does, I think Russ ends up playing better. I think he does. And if it doesn't, they're in a really tough spot because they're tied to him contractually and financially for a while, and they're going to have some tough decisions to make for sure.
Okay. Argument's sake, let's say that he doesn't. I mean, he has an okay year, but it's clear that he's just never going to get back to that form. Is he a Hall of Famer in your book?
I had this discussion regarding a few other quarterbacks yesterday.
He's got the Super Bowl, but then
he's got a ring. He's been, a premier player at the position. He's not a first ballot, but I think he ends up in. He would certainly help his case if he put together another really good season or two. I have a hard time saying no. Yeah, because Hall of Fame is really relative to your generation, right? And he played in a generation with, the back end of Tom Brady and Drew Brees and a number of other guys as well. He's not first ballot. He could definitely get in. That ring really helps him out a lot because, I think about guys like Phillip Rivers who never got the ring, but their numbers, his numbers were great. And he played for a really long time. He was always available and he was always effective through the end of his career. Is he a Hall of Famer? Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer because he beat the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl, but statistically he wasn't as good as a guy like Rivers. Ben Roethlisberger is also in that group of those three guys, and he's a Hall of Famer. So I think if Ben Roethlisberger's a Hall of Famer with his 2 rings, and a third appearance as well, a game they lost Super Bowl 45 to the Packers, I think Russell Wilson's got a pretty good case as well to get in eventually. But he could certainly help himself out if he ends up producing a solid year and he doesn't just go out with so much as a whimper like he might right now.
What I think is so interesting about Wilson is that, because you're right, I mean, sometimes it's just all about that. It can be something as simple as, he's got 2 rings instead of 1. Oh, I didn't know he had 2. Okay, if he's got 2, yeah, he's in. And we think of how close they were, and probably Russell Wilson would say, hey, I don't know why they called it. They called it. I should have just handed it off to Marshawn Lynch, and we win a Super Bowl. But, do you even take that into account? I almost feel like if that Super Bowl doesn't go the way it did, and he does win another one, I don't think it's really that much of a conversation. You know what I mean?
9-time Pro Bowler, and then he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion. Yeah, I think he's in at that point. And
it's crazy.
Statistically, I mean, guy's got 40,000 passing yards. He's thrown for 308 touchdowns. He's only thrown 98 picks. You do the math on that. That's roughly a 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. That's pretty darn good. I lean more toward that he does get in. Yes, I think that he does get in eventually. And if they were somehow able to win another ring, then he's definitely in.
Jets are going to play hard to get on Hard Knocks. Are you interested, all in, ready to watch?
Well, as part of my employment, I'll be watching for sure. I'm also curious to get the Bill O'Brien version of a look at a team that doesn't want to be on Hard Knocks. Coach doesn't want to be on Hard Knocks, but they're on Hard Knocks and they're dealing with it because that's what the Texans were back in the day.
I almost feel that's the pull.
He hated being on Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the allure, right? Is all right. Let's watch a team that doesn't want to be covered like this. Oh, and by the way, they're also a team that many expect to be very good, and they have Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, I actually cross-sport comparison. I think a couple years back when Red Bull didn't want to participate in Drive to Survive with Netflix, and it was still a great season without him, but they had other teams to rely on. Does Aaron Rodgers not want to participate? Does Robert Saleh not want to participate? The guys and gals over at NFL Films are fantastic at finding stories elsewhere, and there's plenty of them in this team. It's just a matter of participation. I think you'll still be a good watch for sure.
Here's what I would say in closing, and I appreciate your time, bud. If I'm the Jets, okay, I think, always some teams are a little hesitant, like, oh man, we don't want this getting out or that getting out. But for them, it's got to be centered around Rodgers, because if I'm the Jets, the last thing that I want to do, like, what does everybody say could be, a turning point or could spell bad news for the Jets? Well, if Aaron Rodgers isn't happy and he goes into that Aaron Rodgers hole of his and just doesn't want to be bothered by anybody or anything. Well, I get the sense that, like, if I'm the Jets, I make sure, I don't know if this is possible, you probably know the rules better, I make sure that Aaron Rodgers is in every last film meeting or editing meeting with those guys to say, Aaron, is this okay with you or is this not okay? Because if you put something out there that Aaron Rodgers doesn't like, I mean, who knows how he's going to react?
Well, okay, so in the rules, these are the rules. They can shoot pretty much whatever they want, provided they get the access from the coaches. Coaches can kind of set certain parameters, but there's things that they have to allow them to do. But before that final episode actually goes to air, the coach gets a look at it, and they can make changes. So it's not so much that they can manipulate, like, hey, make sure Rodgers is featured prominently, but they can sit in that room and say, I don't want this in there, I don't want that in there, to protect that. So the funny thing, though, and this is probably what's most important, is Rodgers probably isn't going to play in the preseason. The preseason doesn't matter, and Hard Knocks takes place during training camp in the preseason. What's really going to matter to his happiness is what happens in the regular season. This is not Hard Knocks in season. We are not following the Indianapolis Colts through a rough year. We are not following the Arizona Cardinals through a rough year. We are following the New York Jets as they prepare for what should be a good year. And the real bumps in the road aren't going to come until the regular season, by the time NFL Films is long gone.
Nick, it won't be long now. NFL season right around the corner. We appreciate your time as always, and obviously be doing it again real soon. Thank you, pal.
Oh, yeah, we're gearing up. I will be talking to you soon enough. Thanks for having me, as always.
All right. That is, again, Nick Shook, NFL.com. Follow him on Twitter at the Nick Shook. And interesting stuff there about the Hard. And, I admit, I'm a bigger Hard Knocks fan maybe than most. Although recently, last couple of years, I haven't been as like, oh God, it's on. I can't wait to watch it when I get home. But I will say, like, part of the draw, whether they want it to be or not, is going to be like the Jets saying, we don't want this. We don't want you here. You're invading our space. And HBO saying, well, if you want, call the commissioner and see what he thinks about it, because the commissioner is the one that, signs off on this ultimately anyway. But like, I've heard from so many people that this HBO crew, they've been together for such a long time that they've got this down to a science. Like at times, I mean, yes, you see the cameras, but really you get so used to it and they just do their own thing that you don't even really notice them after a while. I don't know. I think Rodgers, how can he not be fast? Like, because you're wondering, like, do you want to ask him a question? He wants to be on camera. It's just, if he says one thing that gets people riled up and it goes not in his favor, the public response, then he's going to be ticked off. It's just, I don't know. I wonder if Hard Knocks is starting to run its course. Can't believe I'm saying that because I love the show, but I wonder if it's running its course.
Yeah, they really needed to do it up big this year, and I think that it doesn't get much bigger than the Jets.
But what if they're not gonna cooperate? But then maybe that is the reason. I don't know.
Yeah, and certainly some things they're gonna have to cooperate with. But yeah, with Saleh getting that final say, I mean, you can't veto everything, can you? It's just some things have to sneak.
Well, I heard too that they are not allowing, on camera guys to be cut.
That I understand, because we're watching them go through something that's like a seemingly traumatic moment, and that shouldn't have to be exposed to the world if they don't want it to be. But that's a really emotional and powerful part of the show for sure.
Yeah, and I wonder how HBO will, because again, they always seem to, maybe they'll stop doing this, but they always seem to latch on. For us, it was what, Kajus? That was the guy. There's always that guy that they latch on to that either, didn't play football till his high school year, or he lived out of his car, bad family situation, had a really tragic accident, and is battling back, and he's a long shot. Those are the guys that they are all over and really follow. I don't know. We'll see. I think I just want to see Aaron Rodgers melt down. Quite honestly, I think that's what I want to see.
I just want to hear one New York fan in practice call Rodgers a bum. You're a bum, Rodgers.
You just wanted to say that in a New York accent.
Well, I would love to hear a real New York accent say it too, to be fair.
By the way, before we go to break, your question to the interns apparently made its rounds in Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh,
oh, really?
The Kenny Pickett better than Deshaun Watson. Pittsburgh fans are absolutely he's better than Deshaun Watson.
I mean, you're putting people in a really tough place.
Well, they're gonna, and it's their guy. But see, I'm telling you, with Steeler fans, and I remember this from my days in PA, it wasn't just the starters. Their second or third stringer could be a Pro Bowler and would be a Pro Bowler if they played on another team. But they're playing, and I'm like, no. And the time. Ike Taylor. Ike Taylor's a lockdown corner, Chico. I'm like, no, he's not. He's good, but he's not a lockdown corner. That's reserved for Dion and Revis, and no, he's not a lockdown corner. And these guys they would yell and scream and want to kick my ass because I did not agree that Ike Taylor was a lockdown corner. So Steeler fans and Browns fans are their own little, but Steeler fans, you get them riled up about their guys. I don't doubt for a second that some of them were very, very emotional talking about Kenny Pickett over Deshaun Watson.
I still think a case could be made for Ike to be inducted into the Steelers Ring of Honor. But with that said...
totally different. Yeah, that's totally different. That's fine.
Yeah. But with that said, I think that content could be interesting to revisit, just throughout the course of the season. It could be evergreen depending how things play out. Just saying.
By the way, speaking of Rings of Honor, can we please get Marty Schottenheimer in? I don't know what the hell. I don't know why. I've talked about this. Bernie, I talked about this a little while ago. Hanford was talking to him about it. What? Felix Wright, I've talked about it with. Why is Marty Schottenheimer not in the Browns Ring of Honor? And, okay, well, he didn't coach long enough. I don't care. I look at, how magical those years were and how integral he was in their success. Granted, him and Art never got along, and that ultimately led to the dismissal. But, yeah, that's one I'm going to hang on to for a while because that one – I would love to ask. That would be one of my questions for upper management with the Cleveland Browns. Jimmy, Chico Bormann here from Big Play. What'd you say? All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back with more final 20 minutes. And who did I lay a little wager down on to win the British Open? We will reveal and also reveal where he is at currently as the first round of the British Open being played started a while ago, way back when we were still sleeping heavily in the middle of the night. So we'll update that and obviously get your phone calls as well. 216-626-7901, Chico Bormann Show. Until 1 o'clock, right here on the Big Play Sports Network. Alrighty, welcome back. Chico Bormann Show here on the Big Play Sports Network. You can, of course, stream us live each and every day, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1, on Twitter at Chico Show CLE, also on YouTube. Type in the Chico Bormann Show, hit subscribe. You're all set to go, and we appreciate all of you that have done that. Real quick, certainly want to tell you about our good friends at Nirvana Superwater. They make the summer in this room, which is very, very warm, very tolerable. But so much more than that. Obviously, workouts, recovery from workouts, staying hydrated, just staying. It's easy in the summer months, especially days like this where it's very humid, to just not have much energy. And a lot of that does come from, yes, being hydrated. But when you're hydrated with all the stuff that you're getting in Nirvana Superwater, vitamins and electrolytes and B vitamins and D vitamins, it's all in there in addition to HMB, promoting lean muscle mass and metabolism, HMB being used in chemotherapy treatments for cancer, believe it or not. So these folks have just a wonderful, wonderful product. I've got the strawberry basil lemonade, so not only is it good for you, but it tastes good as well. Go to feelsuper.com. That's feelsuper.com. Type in the keyword BigPlay20, and you will get 20% off your next purchase.
Yeah, Chico. So I was reading about, because we talk about as you hit 30 years and older, your body doesn't necessarily recover. It becomes more difficult to put on muscle and retain that muscle. And these Nirvana Super Waters, I have the seltzer here, which also has caffeine, which I like when I have to be in studio bright and early. But they help support and encourage that your body to recover quicker, to be able to retain that lean muscle, and to be more effective, and for your body to be more effective in terms of putting on that muscle. But what I was reading about on a little pamphlet that was just sitting around in the office was how even if you drink this before you hit 30, it will help you and support your muscle growth. So if you want better muscle growth, Nirvana Super Water can actually assist you with that. Again, Feel Super, code BigPlay20.
Feelsuper.com. Yeah. Code BigPlay20.
I missed the .com this time.
I'll give you another shot. Go ahead. Do it again.
Feelsuper.com. Use the code BigPlay20 and drink Nirvana Super Water like us.
And drink Nirvana Super Water like us.
That's how we roll, baby.
That's how we roll. All right. So I am looking at the leaderboard, Bohm, here of the British Open, the 100, and I believe this is 156, if I'm not mistaken, from Royal Liverpool and Hoylake. And your leaders, Christo Lamprecht, he's an amateur, firing a 66. Tommy Fleetwood matched that. So both those guys in the clubhouse at 5 under. Those are your leaders. Antoine Rosner, 4 under. Stuart Sink, recognize his name. Wow.
Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a minute.
Stuart Sink, -3. Jordan Spieth is in the clubhouse at 2 under, so a good day for him. Now, I did place a little wager courtesy of our friends at Tipico. I'm usually not an everyday type guy, but golf majors I usually like to. And currently my player, I'm hoping this thing's going to refresh and he maybe just eagled a hole or something.
So is it fair to say you're not exactly sitting pretty then?
No. He's. I mean, it's way too early. He's not out of it. He's just not. Okay, so the guy that I bet on, Victor Hovland.
Okay, now explain the thinking here. Let me see. What's the thought process behind this strategy?
He's been great. He's been right there in all the majors this year. He's 25. He's been so close. It feels like his time is now, like he's ready to break through. also good win players. I heard somebody talk about this. People have talked about Ricky Fowler playing at Oklahoma State. Hovland played at Oklahoma State too. You're going to have to be a good win player to play overseas. And I just happened to hear somebody say him. I think it was from Sports Illustrated when everybody else was going McElroy or Koepka, and he's like, you know what, the time is now for Victor Hovland. And I'm like, you know what, I'm going with him. So,
you hear that, Vic? It's your time. You better take full advantage.
Like I said, I just hope that I don't hear from his representatives. Why can I never find it? Man, granted, there's a lot of names, but you know what I do? Just search for it, right? Or do that. Patrick Cantlay, Brooks Koepka, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele. Those guys are all 1 under. Who else we looking at here? I'm trying to find him. Yeah, I just had him. Don't tell me he went down. He was at 1 over par. Through like 6 or 7. Rory, by the way, is 1 over par. Victor Hovland, don't tell me that he went to 2. No. Oh, he had a bogey. He's a 2 over par, Bohm.
Oh,
Victor Hovland is at 2 over par.
The man needs a surge.
Through 10 holes. Not odd. Obviously, the leader's at 5 under, but he's got to get going. All right, maybe he's just, he's just getting the lay of the land. But the thing that concerns me is they're saying the first day and maybe tomorrow, but definitely today, the course can be had. Like it's not very dry. They had some rain that hasn't really dried out, so guys can go at pins and not be afraid to. Although I've seen a few of those golf balls chip that have gone over the green, chip it back over the green again. So some of them, as you would expect in a major. But Victor Hovland is my guy.
All right, Chico. Now, Big Play is giving you an all-expense-paid trip to play any golf course in the world of your choosing. Are you picking somewhere in the U.S. or are you picking somewhere internationally? I'm inclined to pick St. Andrews just based off the history and how different it is and how wild that difference of an experience would make in terms of the experience.
See, I guess it's a good question. What criteria do you use? Because everybody's going to have their own criteria. What would be your?
For me, I think it's history and breathtaking views.
Okay.
But like going back to where golf all began,
Birthplace of golf. Yeah.
Yeah. And just the difference in terms of you're probably not going to find the same fairways and rough anywhere in the U.S. Now you could go all over the country here and find different kinds of different grasses and different things used to make for different surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to play how the OGs did it. Let me experience the real history of where it all began.
And now, the Masters has been around a long time. The Masters you talk about plenty of history. Masters would be up there, but believe it or not, I think, and I would actually factor in, and I don't know if I would have done this in my younger years, but I would want a course where I'm able to look out and go, my God, look at these views. I'd have to go Pebble Beach, Monterey Peninsula. That's just, and I know the conditions can be awful, and it can be cold and it can be rainy, but man, and I believe that's the course that Brennan Gulick told us that he shot an 85 on. Yeah, it was great out there. Loved it.
Now, if I could just pick one hole that I would want to play on, and just all courses aside,
17.
TPC Scottsdale.
Okay.
I think that would be a real challenge. I have to see. I know you've talked about Waste Management 17. Is that what you're referring to?
I thought that's one you were referring to.
I need to look that one up because I don't remember what that one is like.
And the only problem with that is, the hole at Waste Management where they had the crowd, we wouldn't have the crowd. If
Sure.
we had the crowd experience, it would be pretty cool. Although I think with all that cheering, I would just pee right down my leg.
And
I'd dribble one right off the tee, and they'd boo the hell out of me.
A little while back on the Big Play Reflog show, they had Justin Lauer Northeast Ohio resident who is competing on the tour. And he talked about his experience with playing that hole, 17 on Waste Management. And that was a really special moment for him. Like the whole tournament, each day that he got to hit on that hole. And he said he didn't make it onto the green any of the days, but the back and forth that he had with some of the fans was hilarious.
Yeah,
he embraced it.
Like, if I was a pro, I would absolutely, because it is different, and no, you don't want it every hole, every place you go, but that's what makes it so great, and that would be just awesome. I mean, what a rush. But I would vacillate between that and the Masters, but I'd probably end up going Pebble. Can't really go wrong with Pebble either.
I've heard good things.
Yes, plenty of them. All right. Thanks to Nick Shook for joining us. NFL.com, the plight of the running back. You can check that out on our website. Also, follow the show on Twitter at Chico Show, CLE. Michael Bohm, great job as always producing. Mr. Bombastic. We will be back with you again tomorrow morning beginning at 11. Again, remember the Guardians are off tonight. Back at it, a very key series against the Philadelphia Phillies. That is a good Phillies team, and getting guys healthy at the right time. Ooh, boy. So we'll be talking about that, and, of course, the Browns' first practice on Saturday. All of that tomorrow from 11 to 1. I'm Mike Chico Bormann for Michael Bohm. All of us here at Big Play. Until tomorrow at 11 o'clock, make it a great Thursday, everybody. See ya.